Iron Maidens don't mess around. The Iron Maiden. No, not the band. These spiky death machines are back to haunt our memories in Resident Evil 4 Remake. Taking inspiration from the torture devices of the same name, the Iron Maidens are an extension of the horrors found within the Regenerators. They are fast, relentless, and have some new tricks up their sleeves, but why are these abominations here in the first place? In this video, we will discuss the history and horrors of these legendary bioweapons of Resident Evil 4 and Resident Evil 4 Remake, the Iron Maidens. If you haven't already seen my previous video covering the Regenerators, definitely go check that one out, shown here on your screen, to get a better understanding of the anatomy behind these creations. As Regenerators and Iron Maidens share distinct similarities, so too are their representations in the original RE4 and its remake. That being said, there are some key differences between the two games that make them quite unique and eerily fascinating. Perhaps the biggest difference of them all is that the original Resident Evil 4 displays the Iron Maiden as a subspecies of the Regenerator, as we encounter the very first Iron Maiden in the lab, containing a keycard necessary to open the cell containing Ashley. We will discuss the remake's fascinating changes to the Iron Maiden shortly, but it is beneficial to take a better look at the original design of the creature to highlight just how much more deadly its evolved functionality is in the remake over the original. While there is very little to know of the Iron Maidens in the lore of Resident Evil 4, we can come to the conclusion that Luis Serra and his Plagas research team under Osmond Sadler created this bioweapon in conjunction with the Regenerators, Novistadores, El Gigantes, and other creations, as evidenced in Luis's Memo 3 in the original game. Remember to check out my previous video detailing the horrifying history of the Regenerators, linked in the description as we go into Luis's involvement more in that video. These bioweapons were specifically engineered to withstand the temperature-sensitive Regenerators and to sport an even deadlier set of offensive capabilities to dominate their prey. The following is provided by an official document on the fan club website Club 96, titled File 31, detailing the Iron Maiden. It reads as follows: a combat specialization of the Regenerator that has countless needles embedded in its body, as well as the Regenerator's regenerative abilities. It can stretch its arm to capture and impale targets on the protruding needles. Its name is taken from a medieval torture instrument, a human-shaped container with spikes on the inside used to execute victims by closing them inside. Here, we already see the Iron Maiden sporting its long, thin, needle-like protrusions. As it hunts the player, we can hear that it emits the same eerie breathing pattern of its sister species, the Regenerator. While the Regenerator sports skin that is quite blubbery and smooth, the Iron Maiden, in contrast, sports skin that appears charred and damaged, with needles that protrude outward at various lengths. The Iron Maiden is also capable of altering the length of its needles and particularly likes to extend its sharp needles outward when provoking or hunting down its prey. Like the torture device itself, the Iron Maiden uses its sharp needles to impale Leon against its body, dealing massive damage to the player should this grapple connect. Just like the Regenerators, these creatures sport a number of plagas in its body that the player must eliminate to take down these creations. Using the thermal scope is definitely helpful here to take them down, as true of the Regenerators as well. Before we move on to the Iron Maiden in the remake, let's once again revisit the freezer room of the lab containing the failed experiments of the Regenerators. It is possible that the true successor to the Regenerator experiment was indeed that of the Iron Maiden, as all these creatures shown here in the freezer room are slight modifications to the Regenerator, sporting mostly the same physical features. As the Iron Maidens of the original game have slightly different bodies to those of the Regenerators, this distinction is thrown on its head entirely when discussing the Iron Maiden of Resident Evil 4 Remake.
What the fuck? Die, you stubborn son of a bitch!
As seen here in this footage, the creature appears entirely similar to that of the Regenerator, but upon eradicating the last plaga on its body, we see its true, terrifying identity revealed.
Die, you stubborn son of a bitch!
Seemingly sprouting back to life with its leech-like regenerative properties, this creature reveals its true identity. Now covered in much longer and more lethal spikes, and now sporting just a singular plaga embedded in its mouth. This is the Iron Maiden, evolved. In the remake, it seems like instead of being a subspecies of the Regenerator like the original game, that the Iron Maiden is in fact an evolution of the Regenerator. These more aggressive Iron Maidens in the remake are capable of much more punishment here, as the Iron Maidens sprint more frequently and can hit the player with the discharge of their needles from far away. Thanks to the ability to counteract a grab with a knife attack, the insane damage that would otherwise be sustained can now be prevented with enough knife durability. But should Leon have no knife on hand, the Iron Maiden showcases its true power with a deadly embrace. The soul plaga that rests in the head of the Iron Maiden is considerably more difficult to eradicate due to its wobbly and spastic quality of the creature's movement. The terrifying reality of the Iron Maiden in Resident Evil 4 Remake is that this creature is essentially two enemies in one part being the Regenerator and the second part being that of the Iron Maiden form. Although all Iron Maidens have this one plaga to dispose of in needle form, there is a more menacing, more formidable Iron Maiden located within the cryo chamber room as part of the Chapter 14 side quest, The Wandering Dead, which sees an Iron Maiden with numerous plagas in its body. With nearly the same moveset as the Regenerator, but with even more included in its evolved Iron Maiden form, the Iron Maiden is truly a masterclass of horror engineering. An evolution that proved enormously successful as a bioweapon under Sadler. Although we do not get any concrete notes or files that specifically talk about the Iron Maiden in the remake, just like the original, we can infer that these creations were engineered as superior experiments to that of the Regenerators, as their increased aggression, moveset, and resilience places them at the top of the list of Plagas-based bioweapon engineering. The file Biological Specimen Transfer details the transportation of such creatures from within these sealed bags close to Luis's lab, documenting the incredible carnage that these creations enacted on the crews that transported them away from the confinement of the labs. Seeing as most of the enemies that appeared from within these bags are indeed Iron Maidens, we can theorize that Sadler had the ominous goals of using these Iron Maidens to serve on the front lines in his goal to dominate the world. Should any force try to disrupt Sadler's ambitions by launching an attack on his research island for Las Plagas bioweapon development, these Iron Maidens were the front lines of defense to protect against outside forces from securing the island. It's hard to think that these Iron Maidens, like the Regenerators, El Gigantes, Novistadores, and more, were once human, and speaks volumes to the length Osmond Sadler would go with his corrupt and horrific mind, dead set on conquering the world by any means necessary. Although brief in number in both the original Resident Evil 4 and Resident Evil 4 Remake, their chilling breaths, taunting, spastic movements, and their embodiment of walking torture death traps are far and wide one of the most haunting and celebrated enemies to come out of the Resident Evil franchise. Make sure to hit the like button if you enjoyed the video and subscribe to the channel if you loved it. Check out this video here for more insight into the disturbing lore of the Regenerators, and stay tuned to this channel for even more lore on Resident Evil 4 Remake. Thank you all for the awesome support, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Peace!